Welcome to Bite-Sized L&D, your quick, no-nonsense update on the latest in workplace learning. Today, we're diving into the transformative power of servant leadership and how it can drive innovation and growth in your organization. We'll also touch on how major companies are successfully implementing this model to empower their teams. All right, let's get straight into it. All right, everybody. Today, we're diving into a fascinating leadership philosophy that might just flip your understanding of power and management on its head.
We will explore servant leadership, a concept that inverts the traditional power pyramid. Instead of subordinates serving the leader exists to serve their team. It's pretty radical stuff when you think about it.
Exactly. It's like taking the conventional organizational chart and turning it upside down. The traditional, I'm the boss, you do what I say approach gets replaced with, how can I help you succeed? It's a complete mindset shift.
And this isn't just some trendy management fad. Robert K. Greenleaf pioneered the modern concept in 1970, but its roots go way deeper. We're talking about ancient philosophies and religious teachings.
Right. The article mentioned that the 5th century BC Chinese philosopher Liuzi described the ideal ruler as someone self-effacing who enables people to feel like we achieved it ourselves when a task is completed. That's servant leadership in a nutshell, thousands of years ago.
And Jesus had that famous teaching about, whoever would be great among you must be your servant. So, this flipping of the power dynamic has been around for millennia, even if we only started applying it to businesses in the last century.
What I found fascinating was how Greenleaf got inspired to formalize this concept. He read Hermann Hesse's story, Journey to the East, about a servant named Leo, who turns out to be the true group leader. Talk about getting your management philosophy from literature.
That's what sparked his whole, the great leader is seen as servant first idea. Greenleaf asked this profound question: do those being served grow as people? Do they become healthier, wiser, freer, more autonomous, and more likely to become servants themselves? That's the true measure of servant leadership.
I love that metric. It's not about quarterly profits or KPIs. It's about whether your people are thriving and developing. So, lay it on me. What are the key characteristics that make someone a servant leader?
Leadership expert Larry Spears boiled it down to 10 key traits. First, you've got listening, and we're talking deep, intentional listening to understand others.
Which is so much harder than it sounds. Most of us listen just enough to formulate our next response, not to understand truly.
Exactly! Then there's empathy, putting yourself in others' shoes. Healing, helping team members overcome personal and professional hurts. Awareness, especially self-awareness about your values and blind spots.
And persuasion instead of coercion, right? Using influence rather than pulling rank.
Spot on. Add to that conceptualization, thinking beyond day-to-day realities to envision long-term goals. Foresight, learning from the past to anticipate future outcomes. Stewardship, holding the organization in trust for the greater good. Commitment to people's growth, valuing team members as people, not just workers. And finally, building community within the organization.
That's quite the skill set. So who's pulling this off in the real world? The article mentioned some major companies embracing servant leadership.
It's pretty impressive. Starbucks under Howard Schultz focused heavily on employee benefits and development. Remember their college tuition program? That's servant leadership in action, investing in your people's growth.
And Marriott has that spirit-to-serve culture where executives are taught that their primary job is supporting their employees, not the other way around.
One example that stood out to me was Nordstrom's inverted organizational pyramid. They put customers at the top, then frontline employees, and managers and executives at the bottom as servants to those above them.
I love that visual. And their managers don't talk about getting promoted. They talk about moving down the pyramid because they're taking on more responsibility to serve others. What a mindset shift.
They constantly ask employees, "What's getting in your way? What can I do to help?" That's servant leadership, removing obstacles so your team can excel.
But let's be honest for a minute. How does this compare to other leadership styles? If you're an autocratic command and control type leader, this whole servant thing might seem pretty alien.
That's the perfect contrast. Autocratic leadership is all about control and obedience, the polar opposite of servant leadership. The article made an interesting point that autocratic styles might work better in crises or highly structured environments like the military.
Where you need quick decisions and clear direction.
Right. However, servant leadership builds higher trust and motivation in the long run. It's slower, but often creates more sustainable results, especially in creative fields or knowledge work.
And how about transformational leadership? That's another people-centered approach.
Good question. They share traits like empathy and individual attention, but their focus differs. Transformational leaders are vision-centric. They inspire people toward organizational goals. Servant leaders are employee-centric. They focus on meeting people's needs so they can empower themselves.
So transformational is follow me toward this amazing vision, while servant is how can I help you become your best self?
That's a great way to put it. Unlike transactional leadership, which is all about rewards and penalties, servant leadership focuses on intrinsic motivation and mentoring rather than just exchanging work for rewards.
All right, let's talk about benefits and challenges. What do organizations gain when they adopt servant leadership?
The big ones are higher trust and engagement. When employees know their leader genuinely cares about them, they're more invested. You also get improved innovation and collaboration because servant leaders actively seek input and create psychological safety.
And stronger team performance and loyalty. The article mentioned that in servant-led environments, employees often go beyond the call of duty because they feel valued as whole persons.
Exactly. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There are real challenges to implementing this leadership style.
Like cultural resistance, I imagine that this whole serve-first approach might face serious pushback in organizations with established hierarchies.
Totally. And decision-making can be slower when you're gathering input and building consensus. That's fine in normal operations, but might be problematic when quick decisions are needed during crises.
There's also that risk of role confusion. If you're not careful, "I'm here to serve you" could be misinterpreted as "you're the boss now," which isn't the point at all.
Right! It's not about having no authority, it's about using your authority ethically to empower others. The article also mentioned that the term servant itself can carry negative connotations for people who've experienced oppression or marginalization.
That makes sense. Words matter, and that terminology might not land well with everyone. So where is servant leadership particularly effective? The article highlighted the IT and software industries, right?
It's found a natural home there, especially with agile methodologies. For instance, the Scrum Master role is explicitly defined as a servant leader who removes obstacles and facilitates rather than directs.
That fits with the autonomy software developers need. If you're micromanaging engineers, you're probably killing innovation and creativity.
Absolutely. And the article mentioned Microsoft's transformation under Satya Nadella, how his emphasis on growth mindset, empathy, and listening helped break down silos and refresh their culture.
The article profiled several notable leaders who exemplify servant leadership. Martin Luther King Jr. was mentioned as a classic example, sacrificing for a cause greater than himself and empowering others.
Herb Kelleher at Southwest Airlines, who has his famous "The Business of Business is People" philosophy. Under his leadership, Southwest created this amazing employee-centric culture that translated into excellent customer service and 35 consecutive years of profitability.
I was impressed by Cheryl Bachelder's turnaround of Popeyes. She drove this remarkable business transformation by focusing on serving franchise owners and team members rather than commanding them.
Indra Nooyi at PepsiCo is writing thank you letters to her executives' parents. Talk about seeing people as whole individuals and not just workers.
That story stuck with me too. Such a simple gesture shows a profound respect for people's lives outside work.
So what's your takeaway from all this? Do you think servant leadership is the way of the future?
I think it's powerful because it recognizes that leadership isn't about the leader. It's about your impact on others. When you measure success by how much your people grow, You play a completely different game than leaders focused solely on results and bottom lines.
And ironically, the results often follow anyway. All those companies we mentioned, Starbucks, Southwest, Microsoft, Nordstrom, are not struggling businesses precisely. They've found that when you take care of your people take care of your customers, and success follows.
Exactly. It's like what the article quoted about the best test for servant leadership. Do those served become better people? Are they healthier, wiser, freer, more autonomous, and more likely to serve others themselves? That ripple effect is powerful.
Maybe listeners can reflect on their own leadership approach. Are you focused more on being served or on serving? Do you measure your success by your personal accomplishments or by how much your team members are growing and developing?
That's the perfect question to leave our audience with. And remember, you don't need to be a CEO to practice servant leadership. You can apply these principles at any level with your direct reports, colleagues, clients, or customers.
Absolutely. Start by asking, "How can I help?" instead of, "Here's what I need." That simple shift can transform relationships and results.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into servant leadership. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, remember, authentic leadership isn't about rising to the top. It's about lifting others along the way.
I couldn't have said it better myself. See you all next time.
And that's a wrap for today's podcast. We explored the transformative power of servant leadership, emphasizing empathy, listening, and community building as keys to fostering trust and innovation in organizations. Stay tuned for more updates.